The Nuggets storm back to tie the series 2-2. The Pacers storm back to tie their series 2-2. The other two series are 2-1. We're going to be talking second round of the playoffs. Also reacting to the draft lottery, which sneakily kind of happened out of nowhere in like the least hyped draft we've seen in a while. Let's get into foul trouble.
But first, our leading story, Bronny James expected to stay in the NBA draft.
Let's go. I mean, okay, so of the lottery teams, you think 1 to Atlanta, 2 to Washington, or 3 to Houston?
You got to think the Atlanta front office is going to take a shot on a guy like Bronny James.
I feel like they might take a quarterback. I don't know. But
this is our ESPN audition tape.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the draft lottery?
Yeah, we can start with the draft lottery. I like draft
This is
lottery.
a pretty unheralded NBA draft, especially compared to last year where, you know, Victor Wembanyama was the number 1 pick. Brandon Miller was the number 2 pick. Both those guys have been really, really good. So the draft lottery, number 1, Atlanta Hawks. Number 2, Washington Wizards. Number 3, Houston Rockets, which they got from the Brooklyn Nets. Number 4, the San Antonio Spurs. 5, Detroit Pistons. 6, Hornets. 7, Trailblazers. 8, Spurs from the Raptors. 9, Grizzlies. 10, Jazz. And it kind of goes from there. I think biggest takeaways for me, even though it's a weaker draft, Spurs having the 4th and 8th pick.
Yeah, what a way to kick off the rebuild in Toronto, but with no first-round draft pick. That's a pretty tough fall for
the Toronto Raptors.
There.
Yeah, I mean, I think another interesting one, too, is the Hawks were a play-in team. So what's crazy, if you put this into perspective, is if last year's team slotted into the Atlanta Hawks slot had won the lottery last year, Victor Wembanyama would be a Maverick right now.
Yeah, that is crazy when you say it that way. Yeah, they jumped 9 spots from what they ended at record-wise. And, like, I feel like the Hawks jumping up into this position completely changes my view of, like, just the asset base of this franchise and really the way I would go about this offseason for Atlanta.
See, I guess I can't really comment too much on that because everything I've heard about this draft is it's a bit weaker. The only prospect I've really put any time into looking into is Nikola Topic, but that's the thing. I don't want to like say too much because I don't tend to like do a ton of research on the draft guys when the playoffs are going on. I'm more focused on the now, and then I frantically catch up because the NBA draft is so close to the end of the season. But I think it is interesting that the Hawks potentially could get a more instant impact player, hypothetically, if he's the first overall pick, but I don't know. I know Sarr is a big man. He's projected to go to the top. So, I mean, I don't know if they want to do that and supplement Trae Young with that, or if they maybe want to still trade Trae Young or DeJounte and maybe roll with one of the guards. I guess they could go in a bunch of different directions because I feel like this year there's no consensus number 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want like to find that like home run superstar with a number 1 overall pick, and that's not really what this draft is. But I think, especially for a team like Atlanta, who is kind of working on 2 timelines right now of like, you've got a couple younger guys like in the Jalen Johnson mold who you were able to uncover this season. But now you just have this asset, you never, and I think that the draft this year has a chance to get like a little like NFL drafty in like, if one of these teams below them falls in love with a prospect, Atlanta's in the position to trade down. There's multiple, not only do the Spurs have 2 lottery picks, but also the Trailblazers have 7 and 14 as well. So you could potentially move back, get like an asset package, which usually the NBA draft doesn't like lend itself to something like that. But you fall in love with a player, and maybe that player, they're super role players in this draft. And if you can find a guy that can unlock something between Okongwu and Trae, or Trae and Jalen Johnson and Okongwu, or even everything that I just said, out DeJounte Murray for Trae, like that could really change your whole outlook for this team.
Yeah, I do feel bad for, a couple teams in particular, the Wizards in particular, because, the Wizards, they haven't really been like awful like they have been this year for a long time, but they've really been stuck in mediocrity. And it's like, you get the number 2 pick, the franchise changing, pick, and it's in a draft that's more about role players than stars.
Hey, they'll be back next year. Don't you worry.
Yeah, the Pistons is another team like that where it's been rough, and you get, or the Hornets too. It's been rough, and you just don't get a lot of good picks, but.
I've got a team I feel bad for. The Brooklyn Nets. I feel like we see these superstar trades all the time where they're throwing out like entire draft loads. But the only team that loses top 5 picks in a draft lottery are the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I still think I think that's the team we disagreed on quite a bit when we talked about most fortunate. I still like their kind of ability to maneuver for next year's draft. I really don't think missing out on the top of this year's draft is the end of the world, but that is a good point because like they just lost the 3rd overall pick, and as much as the Nets are hoping on the Suns' downfall for one day for them to see 3rd pick via the Suns, like you just never know. Maybe the Suns have the worst record one year, but then they land 8th in the lottery. That's always possible.
Yeah, it just like from what we've seen, it usually more often than not happens in like that team has like a 10 to 14 pick opposed to a 1 to 5 pick.
Yeah, well, I think the worst in recent NBA history, I believe Ryan Hollins and Mo Williams for 1st overall pick.
Oh yeah,
which ended up being Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, that was a great.
That was a finesse of a trade by the Cavs.
The GOAT trade is the Danny Ainge masterclass of old man KG, old man Paul Pierce, old man Jason Terry.
Yeah.
For essentially Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, no, it is crazy how interconnected. Like sometimes there are NBA trade chains. I saw one that ended this season, I think, that had originated in the 1990s.
Yeah, that's great. My favorite ever NBA trade chain is Steve Nash essentially was traded to the Lakers for Mikal Bridges all the way down the line. And then Mikal Bridges was ultimately traded for Kevin Durant. So that's like this weird, like,
giant connect the dots, connect
of,
4
like,
game of
Suns,
trades.
like eras and stuff. But there was also playoff basketball today.
There was playoff basketball.
Real quick, they did draft lottery on a Sunday. That was really weird.
I feel like they did the draft lottery. It kind of just came and went.
Yeah.
I feel like next year's is going to be a lot different because, like, last year the draft lottery was obviously massive with Victor, and next year I think is going to be really, really big because of Flagg, Harper, and Bailey. But like this year, it just really kind of came and went. I even saw some of those anonymous scout reports where they're like, I don't even know if I want a top pick because then you have to pay them such a big cap figure, which
that's such fucking bullshit to me. I'm like,
that's I feel like that's a little too big brain.
Yeah, it's just loser shit. It's like, oh, you want somebody else to have an opportunity to make a mistake instead of you. Like, why don't you just make the right pick, dude? You're paid, I'm sure, like 9 figures to make
somebody
this pick.
Not good. Okay, I think let's start with what I think is the most interesting series, and that's Denver, Minnesota.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
So Denver storms back. They absolutely destroy the Timberwolves in Game 3. Game 4, Minnesota puts up much more of a fight. Denver wins 115-107. I feel like the biggest difference between the two games, more than any of the on-court adjustments, is just Murray looks like he's fully healed. I don't know what magical German doctor he saw between games 2 and 3, but Murray looks amazing.
Him and Luka just traveled to Germany together.
To me, yeah, Luka still looks pretty hobbled to me, but Murray just like, this isn't like an insane, I don't know, because that's how muscle injuries are. Maybe some days you just wake up and you feel a lot better. I noticed in Game 3 they were doing a lot more of like, Jokic is going to be screening 60 feet away from the basket just to spur Murray open on those like semi-transition plays. Or if they're going to pressure Murray too much, we're just going to let Aaron Gordon bring the ball up. They were doing a lot more of just like, okay, if you guys are going to pressure us, we're just going to alleviate it every way we can. And yeah, this is the Denver team I thought we were going to see all series. Just like ball movement, the isolation defenders aren't as effective against a team like this. Jokic just dicing people up. I feel like Jokic's touch has still been kind of off even in these wins, but like he's just such a dominating force, and the fact that they're able to get this 2-man game going late, it's just this unstoppable play where Jokic gets the ball 12 feet from the basket, and it's like you're at the mercy of whatever he wants to do. I feel like the weird thing for Minnesota was they kind of started giving up those Aaron Gordon interior passes that they did such a good job of not allowing the first 2 games.
Yeah, especially in the Gobert minutes, especially in game. I mean, obviously he didn't play in game 2, but that was the thing that I feel like everybody couldn't help but notice was how Rudy Gobert was kind of able to effectively seal off Aaron Gordon on those like dunker spot rolls to the rim. And yeah, that's just completely disappeared. And Aaron Gordon has been able to establish himself as like a positive player in this series once again, which I think is huge and crucial to this series being tied up. But I mean, obviously, like, I feel like there's been like a little bit of a fall of like locked in defensive focus from the Timberwolves on the Nuggets Murray, Jokic pick and roll. Obviously, that's the best action in basketball right now, and it's really hard to like, seal that off for forever. But I gotta say, James, I think it kind of got to the Timberwolves' head. There was 3 days between game 2 and game 3, and I don't feel like they're as locked in, which, I mean, hey, I think the Nuggets are the better team. Don't get me wrong. I picked the Nuggets to win, but I don't see the same focus, and that all starts with Cat for me.
I think it's not just. I think it's Gobert too, because that foul, he like pushed Murray. Then they called the foul on him, and he did the money sign gesture at the ref again after you shoved Jamal Murray. I feel like it's not talked about enough with Gobert. Like the guy is really, he's not mature. He's kind of an idiot, to be honest. Like. I don't know. I feel pretty like confident between the COVID thing way back in the day. Like the guy has not shown a lot of emotional intelligence, in my opinion, throughout his career. And I think that's a weird dynamic with the Timberwolves team is like Conley is like a leader on this team and Ant is a definite leader on this team. But then it's like the 2 veteran guys who I feel like when you put the team together, you're like, this is the guy who's going to help, Ant out. It's been the opposite where Ant's like dragging the 2 of them like as a 22-year-old.
Which is crazy because like, I mean, I think on the court, Ant is like a very mature person, but off the court, there are a lot of examples where Ant is not a mature person whatsoever. The other thing is like the Timberwolves lockdown defenders, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander, like more of their specialists. Obviously, I know Anthony Edwards is a lockdown defender. In the Suns series, they were able to contribute on offense in such a real way. We look at this game. I guess Jaden McDaniels was a little bit better today, but he's had multiple goose eggs from a points standpoint in this series. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker, minus 20 in 24 minutes. For the Timberwolves
I feel
yesterday.
Like that is what's tough about the Timberwolves is I feel like they were really punching above their weight offensively in some of these first 2 games. And I feel like a lot of that is forcing a ton of turnovers, which obviously like bevies up your offense. But like, Jaden McDaniels has been a relatively subpar offensive player, all season. I think there's a couple things though for both teams I think that are kind of interesting. I mean, one thing, obviously, it hasn't shown that it's worked too well, but like switching Braun onto Ant when Braun's on the court has been a lot more effective than Caldwell Pope guarding Ant. But I mean, Ant torched them again in game 4. I mean, 16 of 25, 5 of 8. I think at one point he was 5 of 5 from 3. Maybe he was like 4 of 5 before 5 of 6. But like, yeah, I think if you're the Wolves, this is kind of I feel like game 4 felt maybe a little bit worse than it actually was because, I mean, Aaron Gordon was 11 of 12.
Yeah, and Cat started out 1 for 10 in this game.
So I think part of you is like, okay, with some shooting regression from the Nuggets, we should be pretty good. I think the worry, though, is like talking about Edwards. Like Edwards going 5 of 5 is also from 3 at one point in the game is also a little like, okay.
Yeah, that we can't really rely on that for sure. But, dude, I honestly feel like this game was decided in the last 30 seconds of the first half.
Well, so that was an 8-0 run. They won by 8 points.
Yeah. So Ant hits a 3 to bring the Nuggets lead down to 7. Then there's 20 seconds left in the half. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hits a 3. The Wolves take the ball down. Anthony Edwards turnover, Jokic steals it, Michael Porter Jr. hits a transition or dunks it in transition, and then Karl Anthony Towns Nickeil Alexander-Walker throws this like errant half-court pass. I don't think they would have even had enough time to get a quality shot after that pass, but it goes right to Jamal Murray, and he hits that crazy half-court shot to end the half and end on an 8-0 run. I feel like if that didn't happen, even if that was a 5-0 run, the whole second half is completely different.
Well, I don't know about that. I feel like that's taking away from what Denver did to say that, though. Because like Denver was getting pretty much whatever they wanted every time they ran their two-man action.
Did you not feel like Denver was on their heels a little bit in that second half, though?
I mean, they had such a big lead for a lot of the second half. I felt like they were up by 10, and at the end when it kind of was like the Timberwolves just won't go away, but it was like it's 3 minutes left, and I kind of got the sense from Denver that they were like, hey guys, the game's over, and the Timberwolves were like, no, it's not. That's kind of more of the feeling I got from that end of the game.
Yeah, I just feel like they had no answer for Ant, especially in the second half. Cat was starting to heat up in the second half, and maybe it would have been like more of a 5-point swing that like could have fixed it, but like if it's a 5-point swing, then you just got to hit like 2 shots and get it to a 1-possession game. And I just felt like right there, encapsulated in that 20 seconds, was like, that was why I picked the Suns to beat the Timberwolves. That was why I picked the Nuggets to beat the Timberwolves, because there's just times where the playmaking and like decision making is really questionable from this Wolves team in a way that I don't think like even a 50 ball from Ant can like insulate you from.
Yeah, I mean, I like Denver to win the series. I've liked Denver pretty much the entire time. I don't know. The Nuggets are just such a good team. Max, how do you feel as a Wolves fan?
I don't know. A lot of emotions going on. I mean, I'm really proud of Ant. It was so cool to see him just go out there and do that.
Yeah, just like for perspective on how good Ant was, like Ant scores 44 points. They're outscoring the Nuggets while Ant's on the court. Conley and Towns go a combined 10 of 30.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shot attempts between two guys.
As proud as I am of Ant, I am disappointed in Cat. Is basically where I'm at, where I'm just like him losing us like a really important game has been the story of the Timberwolves for like the last 8 years.
I feel like that quote is like the Timberwolves fan Bible, like tagline. When you open the first page of it, it's like, I'm proud of Ant. I'm disappointed in Can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you, Patrick. Like going to the locker room at halftime down 7 is so much different than going to the locker room at halftime down by 15 or whatever it turned into in the last 20
it turned
seconds.
Into 15.
Also just like so emotionally demoralizing to just like let that happen.
Yeah, you just like honored Kevin Harlan at halftime, and then Jamal Murray is just screaming in his face.
And that's the thing about the Nuggets is that they are so good that like if you make any kind of mistake like that, you're going to pay for it, and you just like cannot afford to make the mistake. And then the other thing is it's the defense. Like I just don't see that lockdown defense that we had in the first 2 games. Like it just doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what happened. Like
I think it really is. I think it really is one of those things where let's discount game 3, but like game 4, I feel like it's one of those things where when Murray looks hobbled, to our eyes, it looks like, oh my God, this is a defensive powerhouse.
Okay.
But when Murray's healthy and he's able to kind of keep the ball more ratcheted away and he's not, loose with his dribble, we kind of attribute it more to the Timberwolves not being as intense, where in reality, maybe they're like, okay, I'm not going to reach as much. I'm not going to go in as much, because when you have a really good ball handler like Murray, if you overpressure, like that's how you get blown by in the backcourt. And then if you're setting up a 4-on-5, like that's going to hurt your defense. So I think part of it really is just Murray getting healthier, Jokic being a little bit more careful with the ball. Jokic had a lot of uncharacteristic turnovers.
Yeah.
I think I see optimism for both teams here. I think for like the Timberwolves, I feel like the T-Wolves, I guess to your guys' point, ratchet up the intensity. Don't, go down. I think if they're down in Denver, that's a death sentence. I know the road teams are undefeated in the series, but I don't think that's going to stay true.
Yeah, first strat, just get on the road.
I think what scares me is Jokic has been awesome, but he's still playing pretty below like Jokic standards. And I feel like just like the crazy Jokic, like 20 of 24 game, which he has like every 5 games is coming.
That being said, though, like he literally scored on Rudy every single time.
Yeah, dude, I feel like you're discounting what Jokic did yesterday. I thought he was incredible yesterday.
No, I thought he was, but that's the thing. Jokic is always incredible. There's no bad Jokic games. Like that's by Jokic's standards. Like he's just missing these like touch shots, his little floaters. I mean, he's making a lot of them, but
Right.
Jokic sometimes literally has games where he doesn't miss a shot.
Yeah.
And it happens like oddly often for how difficult it is to be a good NBA player. Like, I don't know. I feel like we haven't gotten to Jokic like 40, 12, and 15 on like one missed shot game.
No, for sure. There is no ceiling on the Jokic like pendulum of greatness. But okay, Max, zone in with me right now.
Yeah.
I've got some stats to try to make you feel better.
Please give it to me.
So
You
need to remember the Timberwolves, although it's tied up right now, they did go up 2-0 in this series.
Yes.
Teams that go up 2-0 in series win that series 92% of the time. Does that make you feel any better?
Here's the way I'm looking at this series. I don't know if you guys feel me. I count game 1, I count game 4, and games 2 and 3 for the same reasons. I feel like I'm just throwing away. I'm not learning anything from games 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean,
like the 2 blowouts were just so uncharacteristic of the two teams.
They were pretty.
That I feel like they're equally as unimportant both ways.
Yeah. No, I feel you. But so from like an Ant perspective, there's a couple different ways that this series can go. So this series can go the way of the Suns-Bucks finals, where Devin Booker absolutely dominated in the first 2 games. The Suns go up 2-0 against a team with a bona fide all-timer in their prime in Giannis. Mm-hmm. And then the Bucks turn it around and sweep that series. Mm-hmm. But it could also go more in the way of the 88 Bulls. They're playing the Cavs. Michael Jordan is kind of he hasn't had that like super deep playoff run quite yet. Of course, the Nuggets are a different team than that. Cavs, that Doherty led Cavs team, but they went up to 2-0. Then they gave up their lead, and it was only a 5-game series, but they were able to, I mean, Jordan hit the shot, blah, 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 cemented himself as Michael Jordan. So I feel like it can kind of go either way at this point, and it goes down to not only Ant continuing to deliver at this really breakneck pace that is kind of unprecedented of like he's averaging 30 points a game. He's shooting like 44% from 3. Or it can just be like, this is actually the learning experience for Cat right now.
Yeah.
And
how much learning does this guy need?
Yeah, Cat. Yeah, you mean
or
Ant?
Ant. I mean Ant.
Okay.
I mean Ant.
I feel like
I mean Ant.
I guess I don't know. I feel like Ant's just gonna keep playing well, but this series isn't gonna really come down to Ant. I feel like it's gonna come down to the other guys in the T-Wolves.
It does come down to the other guys on the T-Wolves, but I feel like what's the bare minimum that Ant needs to average for the rest of this series for them to win?
35.
You think so? I feel like Cat shooting 5 of 18 is the death sentence.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said earlier, they're like no shot, like nothing from Jaden McDaniels, nothing from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like Mike
You know what else it is too, though, that I think this also hurts the Timberwolves defensive, like, intensity, or at least the way we perceive it, is like Towns getting all these dumb fouls, and I think this is why Ant actually harps on it in their press conferences, is like, you can't play that super aggressive, up in your face, ball handling harassment defense when you're in the bonus. Like it's idiotic to play like that. And I think like the more they foul, like they fouled Jokic a lot yesterday on like Jokic just standing there type plays, which like I think that hurts.
But also, there's plays from Cat where he's like trying to draw a charge at center court, like.
Yeah,
all
he had that
idiotic
one.
You gotta throw it away. Like,
What
what are
was
you
that-
doing?
What was that weird play where he like euros across the lane and throws Michael Porter to the ground and then holds his follow through like he just hit like the Jordan game winner in the 88 series against the Cavs? Like, what was that? That was bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. Man.
He's a unique guy.
I don't know.
I'm kind of, I mean, one big adjustment, we're obviously a real small thing. Kyle Anderson's probably never going to play again in this series. He's been awful.
Take him out. Take him out, man.
Take him out.
We're done.
And you know, the other thing that we didn't talk about is the Justin Holiday minutes.
Crazy.
The last 2 games have been ridiculous.
Well, that's the other
for
kind of
Nuggets.
fluky thing to me where I'm like, him playing that well is not going to be sustainable. AG having a perfect game is not sustainable. Like, but obviously MPJ was like not even like, what was his body?
He only took 4 shots yesterday.
Yeah, right.
See,
So-
I've been thinking, that's what I was thinking in the first 2 games of this series is like, where is MPJ? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a small adjustment that the Nuggets can make. It's like, can you get MPJ some open shots? Because really, he's been ice like this
Yeah.
entire playoffs, but you're just not going to him, which I understand, but also it seems like a pretty good, like, reliable option in this series.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Porter, given how tall he is, like him, you know, handling the ball a bit more is a little scary for me because that's
I
the
don't
type
want
of,
him handling the ball. I want him shooting.
No, I know, but you know, it's going to be hard to just give him the ball and be like, shoot it. Like sometimes he's going to have to take those dribbles to get some space, but that's where I feel like you're playing into Jaden McDaniels and Ant and all these Alexander Walker. Like the 6'10" guy dribbling it is like, okay, cookie time. Let's get some steals here.
I think the weird thing about, sorry to talk about Cat for just one more second.
No, talk about Cat.
This motherfucker. Cat,
People
man.
love
This is therapy
People
for
love
me.
cat content. Cat content on the internet is really great stuff.
He was playing pretty well coming back from his injury, like once he kind of got into the groove. And then I think what happens is that confidence makes him think that he is like a super dominant
Player.
And the
The
truth
greatest shooting big of all time.
is, I hate that.
I hate
so
every
much.
time he says that.
So bad. You can't say that about yourself. What are you doing? Anyways, yeah, he's got like wind in his sails and thinks that he's like the shit, and it makes him start to play like he thinks he's like Jokic. Like he's almost like his play style changes and he's like he's going to the rim more. He's trying to play more of a dominant kind of play style, and like the truth is that like he should just hang out at the top of the key and shoot threes.
I have a question.
That's
about
all
Cat.
we need from him.
Before we spend this entire pod talking, we might have to just talk about only 2 series today.
The Cat episode.
But okay, I don't know if this is anecdotal. And you watch more T-Wolves than me. Every time Cat takes that baseline floater, I feel like it's either a miss or an air ball. Does that shot ever go in?
Sometimes.
I
Not
feel
very
like
often.
in general in these playoffs, like the entire NBA needs to like try to like scale back on that because the back rim is like eating on that shot.
Yeah.
Well, Jokic, that's the thing about Jokic. He keeps missing these floaters short, like barely grazing the front rim on some. That's where I'm like, is he hurt? Because like I swear last year it was like that shot was.
I think
in all
that's more
season,
of a length thing in this specific
where he's shooting it a bit
series.
higher.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know. He wasn't really hitting it that well against the Lakers either, though. But I mean, that's Anthony
Yeah.
Davis. I don't know.
It's just like the thing that we have to remember is that we got Gobert and Naz Reid because Cat was not good enough as a big man. Like we needed 3 because our 1 was so weak. Like let's not forget that. I don't know. Am I off base on that?
You know what the
I don't
finale
know.
the finale
I
of the
can't speak
Timberwolves
on
team
that.
construction might be is like some point guard once Conley leaves and then trade like Gobert and Towns and something else to get Joel Embiid and then you just have this rough rugged
Yeah.
that team would be fucking
Talk
awesome.
about Shaq and Kobe 2.0.
Yeah, that team would be crazy. All right.
Last thing, Peyton Watson, DNP.
Yeah, that's a
for this
little
game?
surprising to me.
Interesting. Okay. Where are we going next? Are we going? We should probably go to Indiana, New York, just for a second.
Speaking of miserable losses.
Yeah, so I mean that's the weirdest series because I felt like on our last podcast, like last Thursday, me and you were like, this looks really bad for the Knicks, but they're up 2-0, so we should be a little bit more like, go Knicks. But yeah, I mean, I feel like all of our worries were really shown through in the last 2 games. I mean, obviously, Game 3 and Game 4 were totally different games in that series. I mean, that's the funny thing about these playoffs, right? Is I'm watching Game 3, and like Game 3 comes down to literally like the final seconds, right? It comes down to this insane deep shot from Andrew Nembhard from like 40 feet out, contested, just stand there 3. But like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, this game is literally the Knicks either go up 3-0 or the Pacers probably tie it 2-2.
Yeah.
It really felt that gravity at the end of Game 3. And like, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's kind of hard to like. I kind of hate to dumb down the analysis of any series to like this player is hurt, but like OG's hurt, Julius Randle's hurt, Bojan Bogdanovic is hurt. The bigs for the Knicks are not fully healthy, and it just feels like when you're playing with such a small roster and your coach is unwilling to even try to give some of these other guys any run, and the Pacers are like, we're just going to ratchet up the amount of transition as much as we possibly can. It puts the Knicks in a huge bind.
I mean, they're starting Twin Towers with Precious Achiuwa and Isaiah Hartenstein in the second round of the playoffs. Like, just that from a starting point is killer for the Knicks. And I don't like, it's really disheartening because they've had this amazing playoff run, but like that Nembhard 3 is so backbreaking that I struggle to see where they have adjustments with their healthy roster right now. And like, I do want to say about that Nembhard 3, I'm surprised that Halliburton hasn't really gotten any flack for that possession, because like that was a very like cat-esque possession, in my opinion, from Tyrese Halliburton. They're down 3. Tyrese Halliburton rushes the ball up the court and like immediately jacks up a 3 off the dribble that like misses. They somehow get the offensive rebound, and then he just kind of holds the ball, milks it, and then throws Andrew Nembhard, who's standing like 40 feet away from the basket, this grenade. And Andrew Nembhard's like, oh, he's like juggling like a Goofy in a cartoon and just jacks it up, and it happens to go in. That was a lucky moment in itself. I guess Tyrese Halliburton was obviously much better in that game yesterday, but yeah, I'm just like, if you don't get the 7 of 11 from 3 from Dante DiVincenzo or like, I guess potentially Josh Hart, like, can you win more games?
The Knicks starters yesterday shot a combined 1 of 13 from 3.
Yeah, Nova Knicks
2 days ago.
Nova Knicks were 1 of 13 from 3.
Yep, and the other 2 guys didn't shoot a 3. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough for the Knicks. I mean, obviously yesterday they kind of, or 2 days ago, they played almost their bench a ton in the second half. They kind of just waved the white flag at halftime, which is very not Knicks-like. But I mean, they were down by so many points at that point. Like, I think this was my concern with the Knicks going all the way back to the Philly series, was like, it felt like if the Sixers could ever just get a 20-point lead, they were going to win whatever game that was. And I kind of feel the same with every team against this Knicks team. Is like, this team just has these, even in the games they've been winning, these prolonged scoring droughts in pretty much every game.
Yeah.
And it feels like so many of their points come off of hustle plays, which is like somewhat sustainable, but it's inconsistent in like the spurts in which you get points off of those types of plays.
And it's just impossible with their current personnel.
Yeah, I mean, missing OG Anunoby, missing Julius Randle, missing Bogdanovic, like...
Because they're a defensive, hard-nosed defensive team. That's what they are. They're like in the mold of like an 0-1 Sixers team.
Yeah.
But they don't have that personnel anymore, so they really don't have much of an identity with this group. So now it's just kind of like, oh, thank God the Pacers suck, so we can maybe like, I mean, they don't suck. I think there's a lot of things.
Hey,
that
in-season tournament finalists.
In-season tournament finalists, potentially Eastern Conference finalists, depending on how these next couple games
Max,
go.
don't chuckle at the Pacers. They've done more than your Wolves this year.
How dare you? How dare you?
No, yeah. But I mean, I feel like this is why me and you were really pessimistic about the Knicks, even when they were up 2-0. But I don't know. I mean, I think the thing we've seen with this Knicks team is like, in Madison Square Garden. They're really hard to beat with that Garden energy. Like, I think their starters aren't going to go down by 20 in the first quarter again. And I think that's the whole thing with this Knicks is like, let's just keep it close and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, like, kind of felt like the Knicks should be down 3-1 right now, not even tied 2-2, but like they are tied 2-2. And it's the exact same thing with last series. Obviously, they got a miracle win against them as well. But before that, the way I had felt was like, okay, how is this team up 2-0? It doesn't feel right. But they won that series, and they could still win this series.
They could still win this series, and obviously that's why you play in the regular season for home court advantage. But Jalen Brunson's going to have to be special, and their sixth man of like magic and like New York City vibes needs to come through.
Yeah, I think that's the one downside to, I mean, there's obviously a couple potential downsides to playing your starters like in the high 40s. I think one potential downside is a guy like Shake Milton, who's, you know, not the greatest NBA player in the world, but like Shake Milton's had some moments in some big games, not like a plethora of them, but like he's not a G League level player. Like Shake Milton is an NBA level player, but he hasn't played in like 3 weeks now. And now you're like, okay, second round of the playoffs, go out there. And I think that's the one downside is when you're not playing these guys at all, it's a little bit, you know.
They had two guys that passed the campaign test. It's like, is Shake Milton, can he be as good as campaign? Yes, you can have 5 minutes in the playoffs. Is Alec Burks as good as campaign or better? Yes. And Tibbs just didn't give them those minutes when they could have, you know, given some relief. I do gotta say though, the 43 minutes that Josh Hart played in Game 3, I think if he played all 48, they might have won. That's all I'm saying. 18 rebounds in that game. I am so obsessed with Josh Hart. Like,
no, he's awesome.
This playoff run is just like all time, like little guy hustle. Like it might be the greatest little guy hustle player playoffs of all time. I gotta say.
Yeah, it's up there. I guess they have to keep winning for that to hold true, but yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel now about this series? Oh. I don't know why. Gut feeling is telling me the Knicks are going to win Game 5.
Yeah, I have that gut feeling.
It's like weird because we came in on Thursday, the Knicks are up 2-0, and we're like, ugh, Pacers are going to probably take the series. And now all of a sudden the Pacers do what we thought they were going to do, and they win in a blowout. And I'm kind of like, I feel some Garden energy coming out of the soil right now.
I was never like we picked this series short.
Yeah, we did.
And I think last week I was more of the feeling of like, ooh, this is not going to be a short series, which it's definitely not now. I do kind of feel like the Knicks can pull this series out still, but don't feel great about it. I don't really have any reason why either, you know? And yeah, if the Pacers can pull this series out, like, wow, what a season it's been for them. I don't want to, once we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I just want to preface it by saying, like, I'm not going to take anything away from you, Pacers. If you are able to win this series, you will have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and that Pascal Siakam trade will be one of the better in-season trades in really recent history.
I will take something away from them if they make it there. They played the Bucks without Giannis and Dame, and they're going to play the Knicks without like 3 of their starters. I mean, context is always important when we're projecting for next season, I feel like.
Also, it's just like no matter which team makes it to the finals, it's like the Celtics are just going to absolutely demolish them either way.
You are a king of segues, Max. A few words on the Celtics-Cavs series. So in between the last time we talked and now, they have played 2 games in this series, one of which the Cavs just brought it to the Celtics in game 2. And then in game 3, 2 days ago, the Celtics kind of returned to their dominant ways against the Cavs. But I think it's pretty safe to say that Donovan Mitchell has been the best player in this series.
Yeah, I was going to say, Patrick, I have a question. Is Donovan Mitchell been the best player in the series, or is Donovan Mitchell just the best player playing in the series? Because
I'm kind of feeling both.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling both. Like I don't know. I thought Donovan Mitchell was better in the regular season than Jason Tatum was this year, to be honest. Like, but I mean, it doesn't matter. The Celtics are just a significantly better team. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I feel like with basketball, we get so caught up in player rankings, but like the Cavs, like they're good in the one center, the one big man lineups. Garland still needs to play better. Mitchell's been awesome, but like the Celtics are just stacked, even with Porzingis out. They're just stacked with talent.
Yeah, they're okay. And I mean, they've been good with the one big lineups, especially with Evan Mobley, but like he can't kill a switch.
Yeah.
So it's like, how good can you really be? I think
Mobley needs to get the ball in motion to really be effective.
Yeah, it makes Mitchell's life easier, but like you look down the rest of this roster, none of these guys can really attack a closeout super effectively. Darius Garland, like there's been a missing persons report put out. We don't know where he is right now. We're hoping we can find him. We're combing through the area between Cleveland and Boston right now. But yeah, like this dude, he's a knockdown shooter. He's the future Steve Nash. 1 for 6 from 3. Like I could not be more disappointed in Darius Garland if I'm a Cavs fan. And that's really been for the entire playoffs, going back to the Magic series as well.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't really know what to say about this series. I just kind of feel like Boston's going to pull away in probably 5. I mean, because like game 2, the one the Cavs won, it's like a Herculean effort from Mitchell, but it's also compounded with like just an abysmal shooting performance from the Boston guards, where like White's 3 of 11, Holiday's 2 of 7, and like I have my serious doubts about Holiday as a playoff scorer because he's been a pretty bad playoff scorer outside of one series for the last like 5 years. But like White's been pretty good and pretty consistent. I don't know.
And White really wasn't great in this game from a shooting perspective.
That's true. I just don't think Cleveland has enough scoring.
No, they don't. It's like each one of their guys, except for Isaac Okoro, can score in like one way or another.
You know what
but
this
it's just not diverse.
This is the modern day 2009 Heat versus Celtics, where it's Dwayne Wade's putting on a show every game, but they don't have enough around him, and the stacked Celtics just beat them.
Yeah,
this is the throwback to that series.
That is
if we're
kind
doing
of true.
series throwbacks.
What else? Okay, so we've established Donovan Mitchell has been the best player in this series. Who's been the second best player in this series? Say it.
Who?
It's Jaylen Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Jaylen Brown's been the second best player, or he's been the best player on the Celtics all playoffs. Like that just needs to be said. There was so much like kind of vitriol this offseason with Jaylen Brown getting the largest contract of all time. And that's all kind of like casuals, like not understanding how the NBA money world works. But I gotta say, the dude has been the best player on this team that has been relatively dominant throughout the playoffs so far. I know their competition hasn't been great, but that's what you're supposed to do when you're a great player on a great team that is a 1 seed, is be dominant. And like, just look at yesterday, 13 for 17, 28 points, 9 rebounds. Like, I just got to give some flowers to Jaylen Brown. He's been awesome.
Well, you know why, right?
Why is it?
Because he sent an email to Kobe before the game.
Isn't that Jason Tatum who sends the email?
It is, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he took
it from Tatum.
Yeah, he took it from Tatum.
Sorry.
He took Jason Tatum's Walkman, or not Walkman, Palm Pilot is what I was looking for.
Fired off an email.
Yeah, this is the only place he had Kobe's
To
email.
KobeBryant@gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly.
The Eastern Conference, man. It's just
War of attrition is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. This Celtics Cavs, it's just weird how the talent disparity between the two conferences.
I mean, I don't even know if it's like, it shouldn't be this stark. It's just like, we didn't have Giannis. We barely had Dame. Like, Joel was there, but like, wasn't really right. Jimmy was out. Even like Julius Randle was out. So it's really just kind of like, it has lined up so perfectly for the Celtics. You got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. All right. Final series. I would say arguably the most or second most interesting series behind the Denver, Minnesota, which is Dallas versus the Thunder. I mean, this is a really, strange series. PJ Washington has been great, but I think part of that is because the Thunder are like an oddly tall team, but not a big team at the same time. It's like they're playing a lot of guys with good height, but like they are not big. They're getting killed on the glass in these games. I mean, Chet is just really not able to hold his own against some of the bigs for the Mavericks, just like rebounding over him.
But you know what? I cannot put that 100% on Chet. Mark Dagnall, what the fuck are you doing playing Josh Giddey in these minutes? I know he was only a -1 in this game, but that is a fake ass stat. Josh Giddey being out on the floor in these games, the Mavericks aren't even looking at him. They aren't even turning around. And like for a guy that is such a poor shooter, like the Mavericks aren't closing out on him. All he can do is attack a closeout or like play in. He's pretty effective in transition, but I'm at the point where like Thunder, if you want to win this game or if you want to win this series, you have to cut out all the Josh Giddey minutes, or at least most of them, and just play him when Shea comes out of the game.
Well, so in game 3 though, they only played him 13 minutes. I don't think they played him in the second half of game 3.
Yeah, but you're starting on, you're letting the Mavericks start on second base because you're getting these awesome minutes, these transition minutes in the very start of every game, while Josh Giddey is out on the floor. And him and Gordon Hayward, I just think when Aaron Wiggins is out there, especially when Isaiah Joe is out there, it just completely changes how the game looks and works for that. And they can just like, when they're out on the floor, the Mavericks are loading up in the paint in a way that it's like, good luck, Shea, like trying to get to the basket, which is all you I mean, he can shoot, but it's what makes you the special player that you are. And it cranks up the difficulty to 15.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of where I like, during the season, I was really confident. We talked about this potential series, and I really like the Mavericks is like the size. I think when it comes down to the two best players, I like Luka better. But I think going forward in this series, like I still think OKC is a really good shot just because I personally think Luka looks I just don't think Luka looks right at all in this series. Like, and at the end of that game 3, Luka's like falling to the floor, slamming his knee on the ground, going for rebounds. And he just like, every time they show his face, he looks like he's like ready to go to the doctor. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, are you okay?
Luka has been so awesome in this series in a sense of like, he's doing the little non-box score things and fighting through injury in a way that like the greatest in this game have done, and the way he can still affect plays, even when he's not hunting for his shot, even when he's not hunting for a step back, is just like, so I think it's like even taken a step up from series in the past where we've seen him fully healthy and we've seen him like kind of at the peak of his scoring powers. I think he's starting to have a little bit of that like mid-stage LeBron, like I like just me being on the floor, even if I don't have the ball, changes the geometry and changes what you have to do in a way that like it's going to be really hard to overcome for any team playing him.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm with you on all that. I've been probably higher on Luka this whole year.
But I agree with you. I want to say he's not like normal Luka.
Yeah, I mean like I guess for perspective, like coming into this year, Luka has the second highest playoff points per game of all time behind Michael Jordan. Like this is basically the most dominant coming into the league playoff player we've had since LeBron James. So like it's kind of my thing with Jokic where it's like he's been awesome, but when you compare him to his usual standards, he's actually been, I feel like, kind of below. And obviously his like mental aspect of the game is like unparalleled. Effort-wise, even with the injury, it's there 15 rebounds for a guy who's really hobbled, more rebounds than any other two Mavs starters combined. I mean, the guy's just been absolutely incredible dicing up the defense. And I think like it's this weird thing for the Thunder where like if this is what Luka looks like, I kind of feel good about the Thunder being able to take this to 7 and seeing what happens there. But man, if it's like a Jamal Murray situation where we show up tonight and all of a sudden Luka just looks way better, like I don't know, man. I kind of just feel like the Mavs are gonna win this war of attrition. I mean, another thing they did was they stopped running as many like Luka-centric pick and rolls in the first half of the last 2 games. The ones they won, they went more towards like Luka ISOs and playing a little bit more off Kyrie. And I think like the fact though that they can kind of go away from that, then come back to it at the end of the game is kind of scary for the Thunder. I mean, I also don't really like the Thunder resorting to hack-a-shack strategies. Like, I'm not sure if that's because they thought Lively wasn't going to be able to make the free throws, or they were worried about how much they were getting killed on the glass. But I do think the rebounding issue is an unsolvable problem for the Thunder. I think the good thing, though, is like you lose by 4. Game 2, they could have won as well. Like, they're in these games. I don't know if Mavericks are necessarily going to run away with this.
I think eliminating the Giddey and Gordon Hayward minutes definitely does help to an extent to fix the rebounding stuff, because like I was definitely looking out for it, but like the way that they can live in the paint and get easy rebounds when those guys are out on the floor, I think is a thing. James, I have something that I think is going to ruin your day though.
What?
Luka has just fallen below Michael Jordan all-time playoff points per game.
It's okay. He'll get it back.
He now has 31.35 points per game, and Michael Jordan has 33.45.
Luka will get it back.
But this is why Michael Jordan still has this record, because it's really, really, really hard to like go to the playoffs every year, fight through injury, and like sustain that high a level of scoring. But we need to really take a second and clap for PJ Washington.
Yeah, he's been great.
He has been the X factor of these 2 series. He hit 7 threes in game 2 and 5 threes in game 3. Do you know how many times he's hit at least 5 threes in a game for the Mavericks this season?
For the Mavericks.
Including
I'm going to say
playoffs.
0.
He's done it 5 times.
Oh, wow.
He's done it 5 times. 2 of them were the last 2 games, and they've won every single time he has done that.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like every NBA team has the one guy on the court at all times where the other team's like, okay, if we have to, we're going to leave that guy open. Like for the Thunder, it's Giddey. For the Mavs, it's PJ. You know.
But he's like approaching area where it's like, okay, maybe we got to like cheat out a little bit more towards him. But I had this thought in watching this last game. PJ Washington is like Pokemon evolved Kelly Oubre. Do you see that? Like,
I don't
got
know.
a better body.
I don't know if I feel this one.
He's got a better body, so that's like the Pokemon evolved. He is like, I mean, I guess Kelly might be a little bit more reliable of a shooter, but they're both like extremely streaky shooters. They both lead with their energy. They can both kind of guard 4 through 2 in a pinch. But I don't know. That's what I'm stop thinking about.
I'm a little too low on Washington and a little too high on Oubre, but I kind of feel like Oubre is just straight up a better offensive player up and down the board. But no, I know what you mean. But yeah, Washington definitely plays a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. I think this is a great series for
also the swag. I didn't say swag.
Yeah.
Swag is a huge thing both of them have.
I don't know why I feel bad. My burning image of PJ Washington from this season, even though, like, remember when the Mavs made the trade, I was like, oh my God, Mavs, I'm all in. I'm so ready. I love these trades. They went on that like little win streak and they lost to Cleveland when Cleveland hit like a 60-foot Max Strus runner. If you watch the replay, sorry, this is such a random regular season game. If you watch the replay, the Mavs score to go up. And PJ Washington is like flexing at half court instead of guarding Max Strus, who then hits the 60-footer to win the game. And for some reason, that's my burning image of PJ, no matter what he's going to do going forward.
Damn, that's a tough look for PJ from a Mavs lover.
Well, that's because I'm like, hey, man, get with the program.
Yeah, I get it.
Got to help Luke out. I gotta help my guy.
I've fallen in love with PJ Washington in this series.
He's awesome. His intensity's been great.
I love him on the defensive end. I love how he can like hit the boards pretty effectively. And when he's hitting threes, like he's just about as good of a role player as you could possibly want.
Yeah, him and Josh Green too. When Josh Green is hitting threes, this team is really hard to guard. Wow, kind of crazy. Derek Lively was 1 of 7, and they won game 2 by plus.
I know, plus 18 in
yeah.
those 20 minutes that he played.
So how do you feel about the series going forward? I kind of feel like this series has the chance to go. I don't know. I think this game is going to be pretty telling if this series is going to go long or short. The one guy also if Luka gets healthier, that I think also is going to be kind of trouble for the Thunder to play is Lou Dort.
I see you're so low on Lou Dort.
I really actually like Lou Dort. I just don't like him in this matchup.
I like nobody can guard Luka. Nobody
Yeah.
can guard Luka. Even when he's hobbled, nobody can guard Luka. I think like 40% of the time you're getting really, really great defensive possessions out of Lou Dort on Luka. I mean, and he's shooting well from 3 in the playoffs. Like, I think you just gotta roll with
Roll with
Lou
it.
Dort. Like,
Yeah.
he's also an ASU guy, so gotta
So you
forks up. I got some love for Lou Dort in my heart, but I picked Mavs in 7 at the start of this series. I'm feeling pretty good about that prediction.
I'm gonna go Mavs and well, I don't remember what I initially picked. I think I picked Mavs in 6.
That sounds right. I don't know.
I'm gonna pick-
comment below if we are wrong about
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Mavs in 6.
that.
Yeah, Game 4 is tonight. I'm really excited for Game 4.
Wow. These playoffs, they just don't stop.
No,
just
they
keep
don't.
coming
I mean,
at
it's
you.
kind of crazy. If Cleveland and Oklahoma City win tonight, we're gonna have 4-2-2 series.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm looking for, baby. I don't care if we got injuries all over the place. As long as we get some high stakes basketball, I'm happy.
No, the bias in me wants the Mavs to close this quickly so Luke can get healthy.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I guess I don't know. How do you guys feel about this? I was super confident about the Mavs like all year. I feel like I've been like the number one like Mavs have a real shot this year guy. I'm like increasingly nervous about the Mavs hypothetically against either Minnesota or Denver. Like
Yeah.
I've never liked them in the Denver matchup, but even the Minnesota matchup now, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially with Luka
Hobbled, yeah.
Yeah, he's getting the shit beat out of him, dude.
He's
He
getting-
really like he's hitting the floor face first. Like he is getting the snot kicked out of him in these games.
I mean, I think especially if the Timberwolves are able to get through to the next round, I think the Timberwolves' favorite player in the league should be Lou Dort right now, and just they should hope that he just beats the shit out of Luka for the rest of this series.
like that fall Luka took on his back, like where him and Dort are both just high pointing the rebound. Like it's not even that Dort is doing anything out of bounds. It's just great effort guy, mixed with Luka trying his hardest too, and it's tough.
Yeah, it's super tough. I mean, so I was very tentative about the Mavericks, and I have gotten very confident about the Mavericks. I said at the start of the playoffs that they were probably my 3rd favorite team in terms of like championship equity. Don't love the Nuggets series for them, but I'm with you on the Timberwolves thing. I mean, the Mavericks, the way they've won these games is through physicality. It's through rebounding. It's through points in the paint. And then it's been closed by their superstars jump shooting. And against the Timberwolves, like, I don't know that they have really any of those like advantages anymore in a way that I thought they might have coming into the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm still a little like sus. I mean, I don't think the Timberwolves are going to pull out this series at this point. So maybe this just like doesn't mean anything, but I'm still a little like suspect to like once the Timberwolves if they were to put themselves in that position and like it, can Luka get a little bit healthier? If he is, like, I don't know. I just don't. I don't.
It's
see
just
it.
the Mavs they're so just what does Luka look like is pretty much like the tenor of every Mavs game.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Nuggets too. It's like if Jamal Murray came out in Game 3 all hobbled, I don't think they're up. I don't think it's 2-2 right now. I think it's 4-0.
No, I'm out on that.
If Jamal Murray was injured,
No, I think the way the Timberwolves were playing in Game 1 and Game 2, I don't think it matters. Jamal Murray, I think they would have won those games. I think they would have found a way.
no, I'm talking about Games 3 and 4. If Jamal was still hurt,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I was saying.
Yeah, I don't know. We just gotta see.
Yeah.
We just gotta see. But I definitely think it is like who's gonna be the dominant perimeter superstar of the next, 5 years in the NBA. I think that's going to be decided in this next like little trio of what happens with the Thunder, what happens with the Mavericks, what happens with the Timberwolves.
I think it's already been decided, but we can go to best take, worst take. What is your best take?
My best
where did my
take
best take
of
go?
the week. I got to scroll down there. We're doing some great podcasting right now. My best take of the week, just because I don't know. I guess I had two that I thought were kind of funny. George Karl, former coach of the Nuggets. I honestly don't even know what take this was in reference to, but he tweeted, "Does the zero in Agent Zero for Gilbert Arenas stand for having zero idea what he's talking about?" Which I thought that was a great moment of comedy. And then my other one that I really liked was a reporter asked Anthony Edwards if he would get a tattoo of Rudy Gobert's face anywhere on his body for the Timberwolves to guarantee a win in the finals this year. And he said, "Yeah, probably my arm or some shit."
What kind of question is that?
What?
I don't know. Like, why? This was also during the, like, Timberwolves are up 2-0 run. We're going to the finals. Let's go. But, like, just imagine if Ant, like, legitimately thought, like, that would, like, bring him some, like, some luck, some promise of winning the championship. And he's got, like, this giant Rudy face tattoo on his bicep. I think that would be hilarious. What was your best take?
Dude, I've had a hard time finding some best takes this week. I feel like there's been a lot of awful takes.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of people, commenting on the Nuggets' demise. I don't know. I mean, the Gobert cynic in me kind of wants to give it to Kendrick Perkins and leave it open to me being hilariously wrong.
Oh, what was the Perkins take?
It's the annual is Gobert good in the playoffs take. Isn't Rudy Gobert the depoy? Why is it all the time he's the depoy in the regular season, but he's a defensive liability come playoff time? Which, I mean, I don't think he's a liability because I don't think anyone can guard Jokic, which is the one thing we kind of talk about. But I do think, and it's something I don't really think this is about Rudy as much as it's about the way the Defensive Player of the Year award has transformed more into who is the best help defender instead of who is the best isolation defender, I think is really interesting, just as a general trend for like the league, because I feel like in the past, voters, before we have all the data and the way defenders can impact the game, I think we've seen that on like a defensive rating basis and play-by-play basis, the help defenders are a bit more impactful than the isolation guys. But I do think it is interesting that like we get to the playoffs, and in the playoffs we see a little bit more isolation a lot of the times. And like I do think it is a little weird how we kind of devalue guys who can really guard one-on-one.
But I think like we can say that of like we're devaluing guys that defend really well one-on-one, but also, when do we see more than in the playoffs that good offense beats great defense so often? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess like for me, when I think of the signature defensive moments of the season, it actually is a Timberwolf, but it's like Anthony Edwards is like lockdown on Jason Tatum early in the season. Like that I'll never forget. And then that crazy game-saving block from Ant toward the end of the regular season. And I feel like it is weird when I like look back at the season, I'm going to be thinking of Edwards as like the most impactful defensive player I saw, just from like, obviously flashy plays aren't everything statistically and everything, but I do think it is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like we've strayed a little too far away from valuing guys who can actually guard their own position. That's just how I feel.
I also feel like being a rim deterrent is like a completely unquantifiable stat that is like so valuable of like, oh, like Rudy Gobert's down there, I'm going to do something else.
Well, that's
like,
the thing is that matters for pretty much everybody except for Nikola Jokic. Like him being there, standing there is a huge deterrent to everybody except for Jokic.
Well, I don't know though, because
like Embiid,
didn't Embiid and Wemby also have pretty big games against you guys? And I guess the argument is like, well, they're the best players, but I think that's the whole point is like for example, when Ben Simmons was a candidate for like depoy. Like he legitimately like shut Luka down 2 games. Like Ben Simmons, like no one was scoring on him. Like I don't know. To me, like that's kind of more impressive in a way.
But you can say the same thing about perimeter defenders. It's like, oh, Anthony Edwards is amazing. It's like people put up huge games a couple times on the Timberwolves this season. Like I think. What was that final game that Brad had against the Timberwolves?
I guess my point with Rudy though, like this is my point going back to Ben. Like they played the Mavericks, the Sixers that year, and Ben legitimately held Luka to like sub 40% shooting, made Luka have a horrible game. His athleticism was a lot for him to handle. I can't even remember a game where Rudy slowed down Joel Embiid, like even slowed him down. Like I guess that's my point is like, I don't know. Obviously, some games you're going to get cooked, but where are the games where you actually shut these dudes down? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I just like struggle for a regular season award to put too much value on like one single matchup or like a couple games against the 1% when like really you are so effective against the 99.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wish it's kind of. I guess it's a more bigger NBA problem where it's like the regular season and the playoffs are 2 different sports, and I think that's where a lot of frustration with a lot of NBA awards comes from. Is like guys are winning awards where it's like, well, you know, when the sport becomes its most intense version, you're not quite the same guy. But I don't know. That's why I like this best take because it could turn into a worse take in a week.
That's true.
Maybe Gobert just destroys Jokic the next 2-3 games, and I look like an idiot. But you know what? I believe in my guy Nikola, and if you're the depoy, bro, hold him to sub 50% shooting one time. One time, brother.
Yeah, good luck.
Play good defense once.
Yeah, good luck with that, Rudy. My worst take goes to Colin Cowherd, who took issue with JJ Redick wearing a backwards hat.
I saw that.
After he was considered a candidate for a head coaching position. He said, he looks like a guy that's going to move my couch. Like, Colin Cowherd, this is such like a boomer, old man radio take. It's a terrible take. Like, JJ Redick is not just this like, you know, he's not Zach Lowe. He's not just this random dude that is like half a reporter, half just like loves basketball and gets really into analytics and has found themselves in these coaching searches. JJ Redick played a long and like very rewarded career in the NBA. Like,
he's also one of the greatest college players of all time.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter if he's wearing a backwards hat. He is certified in these circles. Like, terrible take, Colin Cowherd.
What do you got?
I got Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum.
I also screenshotted
That's
this.
the narrative you might see on TV. The idea that we have a super team. It's twofold. We didn't have the coach of the year or MVP. We only had 2 all-stars. They say we're a super team, but we didn't get rewarded like we are. Yeah, I completely missed when the 2017 Warriors won MVP and Coach of the Year. Okay, first off, like, you guys are a super team. I don't care what anyone says. Your roster is chock full of all-star players. You don't have the Coach of the Year because Joe Mazzulla is not a good coach. Just flat out, he's not. You don't have the MVP because you don't have a top 8 player on your roster. What does this take?
Dude, I screenshotted this one too. These were the 2...
Like, you didn't have
worst
the
take
defensive player of the
candidates
year
for me.
because the 2 guys I guess we just argued about are both on the same team in the other conference.
Yeah, well, like,
You didn't have the rookie of the year because you didn't have Victor Wembanyama. Like, what is this take?
most great teams have about 2 all-stars. Like, that's not saying anything bad about your team. Like,
Yeah, 3 all-star teams are really, really rare. And, like,
it
like
mostly
the Celtics-
happens in the East when the East sucks.
yeah, and there's one, like, it usually happens when there's a team like the Big 3 Heat where, like, you know, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade are like 3 of the best 5 players in the conference.
Yeah.
All on the same team. And also, like, this, like, I don't know. Also, like, with Boston, too, they've been such a great team, so I'm not taking away from the regular season, but it is one of those things, too, where it's like, you got to calibrate. You guys played in the East versus, like, Minnesota, OKC, and Denver played in the West. It's a different beast.
It's a completely different beast. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is stemming from like he's trying to hedge his bets just in case the Celtics lose, or he's just salty he was not top 3 for MVP, but like there's really no argument to put him there. Like part of having a super team is one, this is a team sport. You should be happy if people are saying you're on a super team. You know, that means you might win the championship. But also, like, all of your roles are simplified. Like,
well, also, I mean,
that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Tatum is I don't know. I feel like he's having like a weird downward spiral career-wise. Like I don't know how to describe. Like they're winning, they're the 1 seed, they're probably going to go to the finals again, but it feels like he's kind of gotten worse as a player. I feel like, you know what? It feels like he's kind of having like the Kevin Durant identity crisis.
Oh,
like the post Warriors, like Durant. You feel that at all or no?
No, I don't feel
out of pocket take. Okay, I'm gonna keep that one.
He's
tucked
too
away.
young to be. Going
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. This is kind of like well, why am I not MVP? I had the best record.
Yeah, I mean, but we see this from superstars from time to time. I just feel like comparing this Jason Tatum to that Kevin Durant, they are in such different spaces in their career right now. If Kevin Durant was crying in OKC that he wasn't getting the MVP, like maybe I just feel like it's very, very different circumstances, but it's definitely a loser take from Jason Tatum, and I'm cool giving it worst take of the week.
Okay, Jason Tatum, worst take. Ooh, that's tough. An active playoff player getting worst take is tough.
Yeah. That was not on my bingo card.
No. Wow, worst take, guys. We're in the last month of worst take.
That is crazy.
That is absolutely crazy. I'm really excited to crown the worst take champion of the year.
Has Ant passed Jason Tatum for you? Player rankings.
Yeah, I think he has.
Me too.
Yeah.
You already know how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really impressed with Ant. Like I'm just really impressed he's keeping his efficiency up because I know he's improved his jump shot, but just like he still has a flat jumper, which like to me, usually people with those types of jump shots tend to be really, really streaky. So for him to have game to game consistency is like really, really impressive to me. Also, I mean, we talked about it in the group chat too, but 1 foot, 2-hand dunk and double clutch dunk in traffic. Like that was,
my God.
I mean, he had to
yelled.
take away from Jokic's Air Jokic moment.
Yeah, that was insane.
That was insane.
So sick. That's a jump off the couch kind of moment for me.
That was a weird game where it was like he didn't have a quiet 44, but it wasn't a loud 44 at the same time. But
Right.
also it still had a lot of highlights. I don't know how to describe it. It was kind of like, oh, and by the way, Anthony Edwards up to 34 points. And I was like,
Yeah,
What?
it's like
What?
the third quarter just started.
Yeah. It's because
Yeah.
they were just always down by 10 the entire time. So it just never felt like it was that impactful. But it really seemed like most possessions he could get his way in there and score, which was really sick.
yeah, no, it's crazy. Like it's just sometimes he just keeps elevating and you're like, oh my God, the elevator is going up another floor. I wasn't ready for it. I thought I
Yeah.
hit floor 2.
That dunk specifically was like, that's Jordan like.
Yeah, no,
Right there.
Ant's been absolutely incredible. Yeah, all right. Well, that's the Monday show. I guess on Thursday we'll look forward to. I don't know. These series could go any way, especially especially Mavs Thunder tonight.
We
Such a
could
big
have
game
some
4.
series done. We could like be heading towards 7-game series in every series. Who knows what is gonna happen? But I'm excited to watch.
All right, we'll catch you guys on Thursday. Peace.